Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I let you know what I thought about them, and we always start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week, Ice Cream Man number 18 from Image Comics, written by W. Maxwell Prince, with artwork by Martin Morazzo, and coloring by Chris O'Halloran, lettering by good old Neon. This has been such a phenomenal, innovative, and sophisticated, and genuinely creepy and unnerving comic book ever since the first issue. Each issue of Ice Cream Man stands on its own. It's its own one-shot story. Sometimes it may tie in a little bit to an overall story, but it's usually not really the case. Each issue you can read on its own, so if you've never read Ice Cream Man, you could read this one, not having read anything before, and get as much impact from this book as someone who's been reading it from day one. Ice Cream Man number 18 was one of the best issues of the series yet. In this book, each issue is a very somber, bittersweet at times, sad, tragic story of someone's life. Now, sometimes there's this Ice Cream Man dude involved. He gives someone ice cream, their life turns to crap or something like that. But in issue number 18, it's an exploration of this dude who's dying from like Alzheimer's, right? And so he's laying in his hospital bed, and the narration is him, right? He is the narrator, but the memories are going away from him as he's narrating the story. And he's seeing his life basically flash before his eyes. He's getting visited by his now grown-up children, all that kind of stuff. Really very well done, right? And the personification of whatever is stealing his memories is this like little gremlin. If you know anything about Rockin' Robbie, you know that I love me some gremlins. Anyway, Ice Cream number 18 was absolutely fantastic. It strikes that same unnerving chord that Martin's work usually does on this title. Morazzo's artwork with Chris O'Halloran's coloring is sickly sweet. It's beautiful, crisp, clean line work that's got texture and detail to it. Ice Cream Man is such a phenomenal series. It's actually hit my top 10 over the last 2 years, so this is one of the best series on shelves, and this is a great opportunity to jump right in and see what all the fuss is about. Ice Cream Man number 18, the pick of the week. Let's go to the other Image comic book I read this week. Almost another pick of the week is Olympia number 4. Olympia has been amazing. Written by Kurt Pyers, but the story was also co-created by his father, Tony Pyers. It's got artwork by Alex Diotto, D. Cuniff on the coloring, Micah Myers on the lettering. This book has been fantastic ever since it started. This is issue number 4 of 5, so it's the penultimate issue. In this story, think it's kind of like Last Action Hero just a little bit. So there's this kid, he's a lonely kid, he's into comic books, his favorite superhero is named Olympia, and one day, all of a sudden, Olympia just appears in his reality. And in fact, he actually has gone through a portal from his comic book reality into this kid's world, and then they go to try to find the creator of this character to figure out what they're supposed to do next. Everything's heating up, amping up. This book is fun. It pokes a lot of fun at the comic book industry. It's a big loving tribute to creators like Jack Kirby and more. It's a big loving tribute to Tony Pyers, which is Kurt's father, who passed away right before this book came out. This book is excellent. I love it so much. So I've already read these first 4 issues. I read them like a couple months ago. So I have not read the final issue yet, but it's set up to be a big, slam-bang, fantastic finish. This book, though, as fun as it is, as exciting it is, as much of an homage as it is to the classic comic books like New Gods and stuff like that, this book has a lot of heart. It's got a lot of nuance to it, a lot of depth in the richness of those characters. Issue number 3, for instance, was probably one of the best comic books I've read in years, like best single issues. It was fantastic. Olympia number 4 continues that momentum. It keeps that story going. If you've loved what's come before, no reason you're not going to like it now. We're definitely down for the entire ride. Kurt Pyers and company doing an amazing job. Olympia number 4 out this week from Image Comics. Now I want to jump over to Vault real quick because I do want to spotlight Finger Guns number 1. This is another near almost pick of the week. Some really good comic books out this week and some okay comic books. Finger Guns number 1, though, is a brand new series from Vault Comics. It's written by Justin Richards with artwork by Val Halverson, Rebecca Nalty on the coloring, Taylor Esposito on the lettering. I did an advanced review of this one. I've actually been able to read issue number 1 and number 2, so this story just keeps going and building into issue number 2, but it's a great introductory issue. The basic premise of this book, and you can definitely check out the advanced review for more full thoughts on this, and I'll try to remember to throw a link down in the description, but it's about these two young adults who find that they can use their finger guns to affect people's emotions. Right? So like one finger calms somebody down, two fingers like ramps them up and gets them all like angsty and mad and angry, right? So these two kids realize they have these powers, but the book, as it seems like a simple premise, but the book is not really about that. It is, but it's really not. It's also about more so the lives of these two characters. And the characters are very well fleshed out, very well developed. Justin Richards has done such an amazing job on this book. It's got a great brisk pace to it. The dialogue is spot on. The references are spot on. The artwork by Arisen is splendid. Very crisp, very clean, very free-flowing, and then that artwork by Rebecca Nalty adds a lot of texture to the book and has a great color palette that really takes these two opposing views, these two polar opposite of characters, but they also have a common ground, right? And Taylor Esposito, just one of the best letterers in the business. Finger Guns #1, fantastic. If you've loved what Vault has done before, you're going to be sold on this one already. If you haven't been checking out what Vault has been doing, this is a great one to jump right in. It's also got a few covers. I got them right over there. Should have grabbed them. Jen Hickman did one of them. That was a fantastic cover. And then there's like an homage to like Jim Steranko's Nick Fury type stuff on one of the other covers. Finger Guns #1 out this week for Vault. It's a big week from Vault, but before I really get even further into this, Cult Classic Creature Feature #5, that's the final issue of that series, is out this week. My shop was shorted. Very angry about that. Rah! Anyway, so hopefully I'll be able to get a copy to read before I do the top 10 video on Thursday morning, because I'm really excited to check out the final issue of that. Speaking of getting shorted books, I was also shorted the new issue of Redneck by Donny Cates, so that is out this week as well, but I didn't get a chance to read it. But let's talk about Wasted Space #14, yet another phenomenal issue of Wasted Space. This has been one of my favorite comic books for the last couple years. It, to me, is one of the most important comic books of the last decade. I absolutely love this book. It's a nice, fun, sci-fi, hilarious, humorous romp, but it has a lot of subtle meaning in it as well. Michael Morisi is the writer. Hayden Sherman is the artist. Jason Wordie, the colorist. Jim Campbell is the letterer. I love this book and this creative team so much. Morisi really hits a point, a pitch point in this issue with the character of Billy, in particular. He hits a moment of understanding, a realization, of revelation, and that just makes this whole book a revelation. It's a great turning point into the story. A lot of these ideas that Morisi and company have been laying out there, they're really starting to come to fruition. These characters are on their own separate journeys as well as their collective journey, and it's just something I'm so 100% down for. We only got like 11 more issues of the series left, and I'm kind of sad for it, but I'm really excited to see where it's going, and it starts getting into the bigger picture again at the end of this issue. Wasted Space #14, an absolutely slam-bang fantastic book. Also returning this week is Heathen. Heathen #9, starting the third story arc of Heathen. I am now completely caught up on this book, and it is just masterful. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. It's like a Viking fantasy tale. It's about this woman who's out to basically make Odin pay for all of the crap that he puts mankind through, right? She's kind of ostracized from her village because she's a lesbian. She's kind of trying to find herself on this quest, but it's just so well done. The artwork, everything. So in this one, we have Ashley Woods joining in on the artwork. Natasha Alterici, I believe is how you pronounce that, probably messed it up, is typically the writer and the artist. However, we got a new artist jumping in to help keep that schedule going. However, she is continuing the coloring, so it does keep the same flow. So the line work's not the same. You may miss some of the original line work, but this Woods does an absolutely fantastic job of keeping the dynamic flow and nature of the series going. It just doesn't have quite so much grit and texture to it, but that is still provided by the coloring. If you haven't been reading Heathen, the first 2 trades are out right now. I highly encourage you to check it out. It was one of Vault's first books, and it's one of their best books. Issue #9, a fantastic continuation of this story. This has been a big, fun, slow-paced, long-form Viking fantasy epic, and I am so glad to be caught back up and be joining it live here with issue #9. Heathen, #9, out this week. Vagrant Queen, A Planet Called Doom, issue #2. This is the second story arc of Vagrant Queen, which is soon to be a sci-fi TV series, debuting at the end of March. Mags Visaggio, Jason Smith, Harry, Saxon, and Zach Sam are the creative team on this one. If you like the first Vagrant Queen arc, you're going to like this one. I think the story setup is actually really cool. You get to see a little bit more about her past. You get to see a little bit more about what people expect from her. The basic premise of this is that she is supposed to be, what's her name? I can't even remember what her name is. It's, Alida, something like that. So she's supposed to be like this queen of this like space empire. She basically told him to shove it, right? So now they've come back. They've trying to get her, figure out what's going on. If you like stuff like Star Wars and that kind of thing, I think you'll like this one. The art may not be to everybody's taste, but I think it's very powerful in certain moments when it needs to be, and I think it really fits the fun flow and nature of the story. Vagrant Queen number 2 from A Planet Called Doom. Out this week, Black Stars Above, issue number 4, with a very solid penultimate issue here, because I believe it's only 5. The last issue kind of threw me for a loop. It had a lot of text pages in it, kind of threw me in the middle of a giant comic book week, and I just wasn't expecting to read like 4 or 5 pages of a journal, but the journal is very essential to this book. Now, Black Stars Above number 4 really starts paying off some of the slow creeping horror, cosmic horror, that has been developing since issue number 1. So it's really nice to see that payoff. Maybe it could have happened just a little bit sooner. Maybe in issue number 3 would have got me a little bit more excited. However, this is just expertly done. Lonnie Nadler, Jenna Shaw, Brad Simpson. Yeah, Brad Simpson and Hassan Otsman-El-Howe, a fantastic creative team. This is right along the veins of something like H.P. Lovecraft, cosmological horror, existential dread. It's got a great slow pace into the realm of insanity in it. And like I said, it really starts paying off some stuff with issue number 4. So if you feel the book's been a little bit slow, give it another shot into issue number 4. But if you've been liking it, you're really going to like this one. I thought this was probably one of the better issues of the series yet, and it's a pretty good series. So that's Vault. Let's move over to one of the big ones, Marvel, but Vault's still huge in my heart. Giant Size X-Men, Jean Grey and Emma Frost. So this starts a series of giant size one-shot specials in the X-Men universe written by Jonathan Hickman. In this one, we have Russell Dodderman on the artwork, joined by Matt Wilson on the coloring. Dodderman and Wilson working together again, super sold. Hickman doing a one-shot special on Jean Grey and Emma Frost, that's super cool. I'm loving the direction of X-Men. We got a bunch of X-Men books to get to here in just a second. But what I want to say about this one is I really liked it. Thought it was super cool. Now, it's mostly a silent issue. And not only is it a silent issue, it is pretty much an homage, if not complete, almost ripoff, one could say, of that silent issue that Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely did in the New X-Men days. I think it was 123 or whatever. Marvel did this whole thing where it was called Nuff Said, and for the whole month, pretty much all their comic books were silent. But you add in Dodderman's artwork, and it's beautiful and it's amazing, and loving that new X-Men run, and loving that issue in particular, I was totally on board and down. It's basically the exact same issue. Jean and Emma have to go inside someone's brain to figure out what's wrong with them. But it actually is the blossoming seed of something big that Hickman's setting up. And I know we've been talking about this for a while, but that's what they've been doing. They've been laying these seeds, they've been sowing them, and now they're starting to reap that stuff, and it's about to start really just blossoming up. Anyway, beautiful artwork, an excellently rendered tale. I really love it, and a nice loving tribute to Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely's work on New X-Men. Giant Size X-Men, Jean Grey, Emma Frost, number 1. So it's just a one-shot, and it is extra sized, and there's going to be one of these every month. The next one's going to be Nightcrawler, then there's like a Magneto one, and Phantom X, and it's just going to keep continuing, a place where we can shine some Krakoan light on some of the corners of the X universe. Anyway, really did like this one. Interesting to know why Jean's all of a sudden in her, last costume, but whatever. X-Men number 7 is here. Speaking of Jonathan Hickman on X-Men, issue number 7 has Lionel Francis Yu returning on the artwork, and the artwork is very solid. It's got some nice Apocalypse bit in there. I really love the way Yu is drawing Apocalypse right here. He adds so much power and depth to that character, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. This issue is dealing with a really interesting issue that you have with the whole resurrection protocols with the X-Men. So now any mutant that dies can pretty much be resurrected. There's a lot of questions, like what about the Genosians who died in the Grant Morrison run? And now we know that Hickman is in there. But also, what about the mutants that were depowered after House of M? What about them? Well, this is where they kind of start talking about that. They start dealing with it. And it leads to an excellent conversation between Cyclops and Nightcrawler about the essence of the soul, faith, belief, reality, stuff like that. Mutants' new place in a world where they don't have to worry about death. Some really cool, great philosophical discussions between Cyclops and Nightcrawler there, and some interesting tidbits towards the beginning about with Wolverine and Cyclops. Some interesting stuff developing with Logan and Scott, I'll say. But X-Men number 7 was a really fantastic issue, and I loved it a lot. And like I said, there's some great apocalypse moments, and I really like the way that they're addressing this idea of which mutants do we resurrect. What about all the ones who died before we moved to Krakoa? Kind of getting to that. X-Men Fantastic Four number 2 is here, so now it has exploded. Fantastic Four versus X-Men, issue number 1, that's the setup. It's all starting in full force right here in issue number 2. Chip Zdarsky writes a great Fantastic Four. He's making a very strong case to be the ongoing writer on Fantastic Four if Dan Slott ever wants to give it up. But also you got some great Doom moments here, in particular some great Doom Valeria moments, and if you can do a good Doom Val conversation, you should write the Fantastic Four. But this is a great book. The X-Men, or the Fantastic Four, are worried that the X-Men are coming after Franklin because Franklin's technically a mutant. His powers have been on the fritz, and they think that he needs to have a place on Krakoa, and they can figure out what's going on and help him. Reed and the rest of his family don't want that. Franklin stows away on the Marauder with Kate, Pride, and the rest. And so now the X-Men and the Fantastic Four are in this, like most of these crossovers, they're fighting, it's misunderstanding, something else is actually going on, but it's still very, very fun, and I enjoyed it very much. X-Men Fantastic Four number 2 out this week. X-Force number 8 is here. This story, after the big slam bang first arc that Benjamin Percy did, he's kind of slowed it down a little bit, and now he's focusing a lot on the character of Domino and how that character has developed since the House of X, Powers of 10 stuff started, right? So this is an interesting issue. I love the connection now with her and Colossus. It works really well. The artwork is not as solid in this issue as it has been for the most of the series, but the story is still there, the character work is still there, and I still think that Benjamin Percy is making the second most essential X-Men book out there right now, right behind Jonathan Hickman's X-Men. That's the one you need to be paying the most attention to. But this one, don't sleep on it. X-Force has been amazing. It's been fun, and issue number 8 is out this week. New Mutants number 8 is here with Ed Brisson doing this issue, so it's focusing back on the Earth-based New Mutants. We're talking about Boom Boom, we're talking about Armor, and others. This is an interesting story that kind of deals with Tabitha's feelings after what happened, the devastation that they caused at the farm when they went to go get Beak and Angel from the X-Men run by Morrison and Quitely. We've been talking a lot about that Morrison Quitely X-Men run a lot lately. It's really, really like how much Hickman is pulling from that stuff, Hickman and the rest. But this is a decent issue of New Mutants. New Mutants is kind of a weird book. It alternates 2 stories. You got the classic OG New Mutants, and you got the newer New Mutants. You got 2 different writers doing 2 different stories, and they kind of alternate around. I don't know if the Hickman one, I think the Hickman one might be done. It might just be Brisson from this point forward. But this was an interesting issue. It was cool, and I like the character of Boom Boom. She was, like, her and Jubilee were like 2 of my favorite X-Men when I was growing up, just because I guess they were like nearer my age, and they had that attitude, and they felt very late 80s, early 90s, which is right along, that's me. Anyway, New Mutants number 8 is out this week. It's a pretty decent issue. It's okay. But compared to some of the other X books out this week, it's probably the weakest one. But that's not saying too much bad. I wouldn't say that. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so they got a new Netflix, nope, too used to saying that. They got a new Disney Plus series coming out. So of course they got to have a comic book. Falcon and Winter Soldier is of course a team up between Falcon and Winter Soldier. Bucky Barnes, Sam Wilson, teaming up. They work really well together. The writing's pretty good. The story's pretty decent. It's decent. It's okay. It's a good, solid debut comic book for these characters. If you're a big fan of these characters, I think you'll be into it. If you're not necessarily just super huge into the characters, I don't know if it's going to do too much for you. But you do got a new villain introduced here, but I think he may have some ties to some old villains. And I think if you want to know who I'm talking about, just look at the Winter Soldier Falcon TV series coming out on Disney Plus, and I think we got some Zemo stuff going on. I don't know. Anyway, a new Hydra's forming. Again, Falcon, Winter Soldier. They got some fun banter and dialogue back and forth. So it was pretty decent. Falcon, Winter Soldier number 1 out this week. Fantastic Four, Grimm Noir number 1 is a one-shot by Jerry Duggan with Ron Garney artwork. Now, initially, I thought that this was going to be set in that Noir universe. Where, like, Spider-Man Noir is from, and X-Men. They did an X-Men series. They did a Punisher series. They did a few of those Noir series. Now, this is actually set in the proper Marvel universe, the 616, if you still want to call it that. But this was an excellent, excellent issue. I really did like it. It really focused in on Ben Grimm. It tells it in a very detective noirish type style. Ron Garney's artwork was absolutely fantastic. Some of the best artwork I've seen from this cat pretty much ever. Great composition, amazing layouts, just great design throughout. This book was really, really cool. It's been a series of one-shot that Duggan's kind of been doing with the Thing, and I've been liking it a lot. I really like this one. I thought it was pretty solid. No pun intended. Fantastic Four Grimm Noir out this week. Force Works 2020 #1 is out this week. This one's written by Matthew Rosenberg. It's part of the whole Iron Man 2020 thing, the Robot Revolution. It's okay. What I like about it is it's got U.S. Agent and it's got War Machine in it. It's got some other characters in it I like, and it brings back that Force Works name. Yeah, at my age, in the 90s, I was 100% sold on Force Works. I bought it all. I loved it. I ate that shit up, and yeah, it's terrible stuff. However, this is a fun kind of tribute to that. I really like Matthew Rosenberg throwing out all this stuff from the 90s that most people have left forgotten and probably should have been left forgotten for a while, like Force Works, but man, it's back and it works for me, and I'm really digging it. Plus, you got U.S. Agent, you got Quake, you got War Machine, and you got Mockingbird, and you got some appearances by some other characters. Thought it was decent. It's decent. It's not necessary. In fact, I've said this before, this whole Iron Man 2020 thing should just be a story in Iron Man. No need to have all of this. But at least we got a new Force Works book, at least for 3 issues, right? Amazing Spider-Man #40 is out this week. I almost didn't pick this up because you know how I've been feeling about Spider-Man. The whole 2099 story kind of just and the hunted kind of wore my patience thin. But I'm glad I'm keeping up with it because these last couple issues have been really fun. They feel like Spider-Man books from the 80s that I read when I was a kid. Maybe that's not for everybody, but it was definitely something that worked for me. We're continuing the idea of J. Jonah Jameson having a podcast. His first guest is Spider-Man. And then Chance shows up. You got a bunch of different kind of things going on. This feels kind of like a classic, fun 80s Spider-Man comic book. Plus, you got Jack-O-Lantern, and I always love me some Jack-O-Lantern. It's not the greatest Spider-Man run ever, but it's these stories that are a little bit shorter, a little bit sweeter, a little bit more goofy, a little bit more kooky. They're really a little bit more endearing to me, and I think that this one was pretty good. This is issue #40, so I'm pretty sure we're not going to get to the big reveal of Kindred and all that stuff till issue 50, so that means we get 10 more issues. Then we'll see what happens. But Nick Spencer has been doing a decent job with this one, albeit maybe a bit too inconsistent. Avengers #31, I'm going to be honest. Avengers starting to really bore me. So in this story, apparently a few issues ago, and I barely remember this, but Tony gets zapped back into the 1 billion BC, 1 million BC Avengers time or whatever. So it's about Tony stuck in the past, facing off against, Odin and those 1 million BC Avengers or whatever they're called, right? It's really starting to kind of wear me down. It's starting to bore me. 31 issues in, and it feels like this book is starting to lack direction. I don't know if it had too much direction to start with. I'm sure it did, but it just kind of feels like it's lost out there in the ether with some of the other stuff that you just don't really remember after you read it from Marvel Comics nowadays. Avengers is getting a little wary on me, and I'm starting to get in danger of falling to the bottom of the stack. And when you're at the bottom of the stack for too long, you get dropped. So I would like to see this book pick up some momentum. Issue #31 is out this week, though. Ant-Man #2 is here. The first issue was a good, solid, fun debut comic book of a new miniseries spotlighting Scott Lang. His whole, lovable loser type thing that they pulled over from the movies. I like the character Scott Lang, so I'd like this book. I think it's cool. Dylan Burnett's artwork is one of my favorite things about it. Zeb Wells doing a great job with the story. It's nothing's going to change your life. It's not unlike any other Ant-Man story that you've ever read that was good, but it is pretty decent. And I love the spotlight on Swarm. We haven't seen Swarm in forever. In fact, it makes me really sad that I didn't pick up that Swarm Toy Biz mini figure that I saw a few months ago. I wonder if it's still there. Maybe I should check. Anyway, Ant-Man #2 is out this week. If you liked issue #1, I think you'll like issue #2. Star Wars #3 is here, continuing the story set after Empire Strikes Back. Luke's looking for his lightsaber. They go back to Cloud City to find it, and of course that's not going to turn out well. You get a little bit of character development on people like Leia and Lando and their relationship, if you want to call it that, and then Luke just kind of being super sad. I think this is going to be kind of like the Jason Aaron run, where eventually I'm going to fall out of this one pretty quick because they're cool and I like them, but it's not something that I'm super excited to read issue to issue, so I may just start trade waiting this one, but I do think it's pretty good, and I think Charles Soule understands these characters, and he's telling a good story, and he's filling in some of those holes that we were missing from Empire to Jedi, so I think that's pretty cool. Let's jump over to DC. That's right, we've got the next appearance of Punchline here in Year the Villain, Hell Arisen, issue number 3. This is a hot book, maybe a little bit difficult to find. A lot of specs are jumping on it. People are trying to snatch up copies. So definitely be aware and try to get it if you can. If you've been following this story, hopefully you're subscribed to it. I've been loving this one. Year the Villain, Hell Arisen is the direct follow-up to Scott Snyder's Justice League run. This is written by James Tynion, who helped out with that Justice League run. It's got artwork by Steve Epting and other people. It's Fernandez, right? Yeah, Fernandez doing the artwork as well. I'm loving this story. I think it's really great. At the end of the Snyder Justice League run, Luthor wins, and now he's coming up against the Batman Who Laughs, and we know that their ultimate confrontation is going to be what leads into death metal. So you've been following Justice League, you've been following all that stuff with the Infected and the Batman Who Laughs and Apex Luthor. This is the book for you. It's cool. If you're picking this book up just for Punchline, you're not going to get a lot, but you will get more than you got in the Batman 89 from last week. So I guess technically, if you want to say it, this could be her first full appearance. I say it's her second appearance because whatever, a mouth counts. But you do see more than just her mouth in this issue, but not a big deal, not integral to the story, but the Joker sure is. Joker gets involved in the battle between Lex Luthor and the Batman Who Laughs, and I'm loving it. And I'm super pumped. You guys know how I feel. Very excited about death metal, and this is the bridge from the Justice League to the death metal. So, of course, I had to pick it up and get it. Oh, but also, yeah, that Punchline stuff's in there, too. Amethyst, number 1. So, we got a brand new Amethyst series. It's going to be a mini-series. But Amethyst has been brought back in the pages of Young Justice, so Amy Reeder is bringing her back in her own solo title, at least for a bit. I was talking about this on the live stream on Sunday night. I'm a big Amethyst fan, so I'm really down for this one. It's decent. It's good. It's not going to change your mind like if you've never read anything from Amethyst and you get this book. I don't know if it's going to turn you into a fan or anything like that. I read the original stuff from like the 80s when I was a kid, so I've always been really intrigued by this character. Really liked this book. I thought it was pretty solid. Not near the pick of the week, but a definite fun debut and something that really made me happy. I really liked it. Amy Reeder's a great artist, and she's also a pretty hell of a good writer as well, so seeing her work on a character I love so much was pretty nifty. Amethyst number 1 is out from Wonder Comics this week. Batman Curse of the White Knight, issue number 7, the penultimate issue. Bunch of talking, bunch of setting up, and also a bunch of big shocking revelations. I don't think that Curse of the White Knight's been as good as White Knight because there is a lot of exposition, there is a lot of talking, there's a lot of just saying what is happening and not so much showing, but there's some great moments in here that really got me really excited for the finale. One more issue left, and I'm very excited for it. We got the ultimate confrontation between Azrael and Bruce in the next issue, and this is all just building up to that yet again. But Batman Curse of the White Knight, Sean Murphy, Matt Hollingsworth, I think they've been doing a great job with this series of books. The artwork's great. I think Murphy draws a hell of a Gotham City. He draws a great Batman. This has been one of the best Harley Quinn interpretations I've ever read, and I really love the way that he draws Batmobiles, especially in this one. It's the best. Curse of the White Knight, issue number 7, out this week. Detective Comics 1020 is out this week, starting a brand new story by Kev Walker and Peter Tomasi. It's a Two-Face oriented story. Two-Face is, I would say that Two-Face is my favorite Bat villain, but I should say he's my second, but he's actually my favorite. But this was kind of a disappointing story for me. It was okay. It was a little bit all over the place. It was okay. It just didn't, there have been better Two-Face stories, better ones that started off more strongly. But I don't know. It was pretty decent. And this has been most people's favorite Batman book for the last few months. I think that may be changing now because of the Tiny and stuff. And definitely the Punchline stuff has helped uptick sales on that book. But Detective Comics has been all right. And they've been pretty decent. And this is a Two-Face story that's interesting. And then you get to the end of it and you're like, maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. I will say this, though. Kev Walker's artwork, really solid in this issue. Not usually always the biggest fan of his work, but I think his Batman stuff he's been doing has been pretty solid. Detective 1020 out this week. Batman Superman number 7 is here. We are now officially beyond all the Batman Who Laughs infected stuff, and now what's this book going to be? Well, it's just going to be yet another Batman Superman book, right? Team up. So in this one, you got Zod and you got Ra's al Ghul. So that's a cool, like, kind of villainous team up to go up against Batman and Robin, but not everything is as it seems. Some really interesting stuff gets done in here. Plus, Nick Darrington is on the art, and I really like that. Nick Darrington's got a great style. It feels a bit rushed in here. Not as clean and as crisp as some of his other stuff like Doom Patrol and Batman Universe, but really cool nonetheless, and a great story. It involves the city of Kandor, it involves Ra's al Ghul, it involves General Zod, and of course Batman and Superman, and it's got my seal of approval. I didn't know if my interest would be kept in this book after its initial arc that really dealt with Batman Who Laughs and the Infected and all that kind of stuff, but this story is hella interesting and engaging to me. Batman Superman number 7, check it out. I think it's pretty cool. Justice League Dark number 20 is out this week. This is Ron V's first full issue of Justice League Dark. Now, it's credited on the cover to James Tynion, and James Tynion is a co-writer on it, but they also credit the wrong artist. Kyle Hotz did the artwork on this book, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. Justice League Dark's been a really cool, fun book. James Tynion had to let it go because of his commitment over to Batman, but Ron V's going to fit right in. I love his dialogue in this book. I love the narration. It's definitely what I was kind of expecting, or really like it. You got Animal Man appearing, and what Ron V's doing is he's taking what has been left dangling from James Tynion, and he's going to run with it. You got this interesting stuff going on. All the different parliaments are at war with each other, so we're talking about like the red and the green and the black and all that stuff, so lots of familiar faces. It's going to be a Swamp Thing-oriented type thing. From the Rot, enter Animal Man. I absolutely loved it. Thought it was great. I thought it was a great... not necessarily jumping on point, but great reinvigoration of this series to me. Justice League Dark number 20 is out this week, and that Kyle Hotz artwork is fantastic. Very fantastic. Leviathan Dawn. It's one shot. It's Brian Michael Bendis. It's Alex Maleev. This is picking up directly from Event Leviathan. I hated Event Leviathan. Why did I read this? To let you know what I would think about it. And I hated this one too. Just don't like it. Not interested. Don't care. Alex Maleev is a great artist. Bendis writes hella dialogue. These are characters that I really... They were like dream teams to work on, like Green Arrow, The Question. And the book is boring. It's drawn out. I don't care. I don't care about any of this. And this is just a one-shot, but it leads into the Leviathan Checkmate series. So, Bendis is running with this, but I don't know how many people are following it. I'm not liking it. What do you think about the Leviathan stuff? Let me know in the comments down below. Speaking of not digging it, Action Comics 1020, yeah, still not digging it. We have a moment here that should be a big deal. Superman coming face to face with Connor Kent again for the first time since Rebirth, since New 52. It should be a big deal, and it's nothing. It's just a tiny little thing. John Romita Jr. just slapping art around, like doing a really rushed, not a very good job. I just don't like this. This is a story that's fit during the whole Year of the Villain stuff and feels out of place. Just, you got Leviathan tied into it too, and it's really, really dull and boring. And I'm not liking the Bendis Superman stuff at all right now. And I'm liking it less and less and less as it goes. Shazam number 11, though. What a fantastic issue. This book has been amazing. Jeff Johns has taken the whole mythology of Shazam and turned it on its head, doing some really interesting, fun stuff with it. Scott Collins doing the artwork on here, so it's nice to see them back together in these pages. Really interesting developments, great shocking revelations, a big twist towards the end that I did not see coming whatsoever. But Shazam's been really, really fun. This has been a great book, and seriously, I'm pretty sure that this story that Jeff Johns has been doing, because this has all been one big story, pretty sure this is their plan for the sequel of Shazam. But great moments. The Black Adam moment happened a little bit quickly, though. I don't know if it would exactly go that way. Anyway, the Monster Society, Unleashed. That's what the cover says. Maybe it happens in the book. If you've been liking Shazam, you're going to like that one. Far Sector number 4 is here. This book's losing me. I think it's lost me. It's not that interesting to me. There are some things that get revealed in this issue about her ring, her power, how she got it, and why she's there in this Far Sector. That is interesting. Maybe that should have been brought up a little bit sooner. The story's been a little bit dull. It's been a little bit verbose. Just haven't been digging it that much. Jamal Campbell on the artwork, though, amazing. Fantastic. Some of the best artwork and most dynamic and kinetic artwork on shelves today is in Far Sector. Story, though, kind of a bore, at least for me. Now, I know a lot of people are really liking this one. And I thought it started off very strong, but it really starts just kind of meandering around for me. And I'm starting to lose interest very quickly. So I hope that kind of picks up. Basketful of Heads, number 5 is here. This is a great issue. A lot of explaining. And it is exposition-y, but mostly in a great conversation between these characters. You find out a little bit more about what's going on. Maybe not necessarily with the axe and the Basketful of Heads, but what's going on in this town. What's going on with her boyfriend. and it's interesting and it's cool and I really like it. I think Joe Hill, Leo Max, and Dave Stewart have been doing a great fun job with this one. I think Dollhouse Family is a little bit more atmospheric and nuanced and creepy, but Basketful of Heads is right next to it as one of the best Hill House comics out there. It's fun. It's got a sense of humor to it, but it also does have a sense of dread and foreboding, and it has something to say. But I liked it. Basketful of Heads, issue number 5, is out this week from Joe Hill and Hill House Comics. Let's jump over to Source Point Press. Misplaced number 4. It's the final chapter of The Misplaced. This book has blown me away. I really like it. It's a great esoteric book about a dude who dies, and when he gets to the afterlife, his soul of his soulmate's not there. She's been trapped by some kind of like sorceress or something like that. So this is a culmination of the story, and it's an interesting culmination. I don't think it's as deep or as rich as the previous 3 issues, but it still was very well done, and I cannot wait to sit down and read all 4 issues together. This is done by Chris Callahan, I think is the name of the cat. Yeah, Chris Callahan, and beautiful, beautiful artwork that I just love it so much. It's striking. It's powerful, and it's a great fun little book, and it's over now, but I really thought that this was something cool, one of the better Source Point Press books that I've been reading, and they do some great work, but Misplaced for me is like pretty top notch. From Boom Studios, we have Folklords number 4. This is the penultimate issue of Folklords. There's only one more left. This book's been amazing. Matt Kent, Matt Smith, Chris O'Halloran, they're doing a fantastic job. Have you figured out the twist in this book yet? Because I sure haven't. I know there's going to be one. They even kind of tell you in here, and there's an interesting setup towards the end leading into that final issue. But this story that's set in like a fantasy realm about this kid who's obsessed with a more modern-esque, technologically sound and based realm like our world, and he's off to try to find it. He's on this quest, and there's a lot of mystery, and there's a lot of stuff that's coming out, and there's a lot of interesting things that are going on with the narrative of the story and how the story is being told. Folklords number 4, though, keeps that momentum going, keeps the mystery deepening and widening, and I really did like it. Folklords number 4 is out this week. Boom is killing it lately. Killing it. Hidden Society is a new one from Dark Horse Comics. It's written by Raphael Scavone with Raphael Albuquerque on the artwork. Albuquerque's artwork is definitely a treat to see in this book. I'm a big fan of his artwork, so it's really cool to see him, his artwork in this book. The book itself's okay. It's a bunch of introductions to these characters. It's kind of like a Harry Potter-esque world. There's this place, this is a thing called the Hidden Society, magic for magic people, magic users, wizards, witches, whatever. And it's okay. Like I said, just a bunch of introductions. Didn't really throw out any stakes or anything like that, so I don't know if it really did a great job of compelling me to come back for issue number 2. It was okay. Hidden Society from Dark Horse. Also from Dark Horse, we have Tomorrow, which is new from Burger Books. Peter Milligan, Jesus Hervais, and James Devlin. So I was excited to check this out because Peter Milligan is kind of a decent premise to a story. What if a computer virus mutated and became a biological virus? That's an interesting idea. There's some interesting characters going on in here, but the story itself was just kind of bogged down, didn't really excite me that much, didn't really get me going, and I read this one kind of early in the night, so I wasn't worn down from reading too many comics at this point. But it was alright, didn't really do much for me. I thought it was okay, but I think that there are better debuts from other companies this week. Tomorrow and Hidden Society, they just kind of didn't really work for me. It didn't do too much for me. I don't know. From IDW, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Jennika. So this is the first of a 3-issue miniseries spotlighting Jennika, the brand new turtle, right? So I haven't been reading Ninja Turtles. I'm so far behind on this book, and I plan on doing a reread soon. Very soon. But I decided I wanted to pick this up and read and see what Jennika's all about. And man, I was kind of lost. There's a bunch of stuff that's changed in the world of the Turtles since I last read an issue, like in the 20s. They're like over 100 now, so like not in the 1920s, Anyway, but the book, I'm sure if you've been following Turtles, you'll like it. But I was just like in information overload, and I was like, what's going on? Too many spoilers. What? Couldn't really quite get into the character or pick up a vibe from it. So definitely though, gonna have to do that big massive reread of Ninja Turtles. Anyway, Jennika, her not one shot, but the first issue of her 3-issue series is out this week. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers number 48 is here. Another one from Boom. I skipped this when I should talk about this after I talk about Folklores. Another fantastic issue of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. More phenomenal. This book has been amazing. It's the best iteration of Power Rangers we've ever had. It's one of the best superhero comic books on shelves. It takes a silly child concept and really make something powerful and nuanced out of it. Great character interactions, great moments of tragedy and nuance, and I really liked it. Thought it was super strong. I've been loving this, and a surprising return in this issue that's setting up all the craziness that's going to come in issue number 50 and beyond. Anyway, if you've been loving Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, definitely. If you've ever in your life been a fan of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, you need to be reading this book, because this is the best it will ever get. That stuff's fantastic. From Ablaze, we have Kids number 2. Kids number 1 blew me away. Kids number 2, not as strong as issue number 1, but still pretty decent. Keeps that momentum, keeps that flow, keeps that vibe, introduces some new characters. I love the cartoony artwork on this. It really fits. This is a story about a bunch of kids during the zombie apocalypse. And zombie fiction is so far overdone, but this is a cool, interesting take on it where you have some kids. And this would exist in the world like this. You know, parents die, parents go missing. It's just a bunch of kids. How do they survive in this world? What kind of tribe are they trying to form? So it's got some great dialogue. It's very realistic, especially the way kids talk and the way kids act. But I like it. It's zombie fiction, and I'm kind of over it, but Kids number 2 and number 1 really sold me, and I'm going to keep reading this book. I like the artwork. It's very cartoony, but it really fits the flow and vibe of the story. Kids number 2, I liked it a lot. From Aftershock, finally, let's talk about Dark Arc, After the Flood, issue number 3. Cullen Bunn and Jesus Hervas. Hey, that was somebody that was on something else that we were talking about. Yeah, that's the artist on Tomorrow. Didn't even realize that. Wow, the art on Tomorrow looks completely different than the art on this one. Wow. This is okay. I'm a big fan of Dark Arc. And after getting this issue, which, yeah, by the way, no Wan Do on the artwork, but there is someone named Wan Cho, who's the colorist. That might be the same person. Probably. I really miss Wan Do's presence, though, on this book as the main artist. I really think that he had a major impact on why I liked this book so much. So the book is still cool, and it's all right. It's got an interesting story. This is about Dark Arc, the initial arc, which is 15 issues, and it's all available in one nice, massive hardcover now. It's a great story, and it's about the opposite arc from Noah. So Noah had his arc that God sent to save, you know, 2 of each animal and all that stuff, and Satan had his own arc in which he was trying to save 2 of every monster. Now they've landed, and this is about what happens next. And it's still an interesting story and some interesting developments and a new character. But man, I'm really going to miss Wan Do on the artwork on that. Supremely going to miss him. So that's what I read. That's what I thought about it. We also got facsimile editions of that Flash issue. Is it 223 or something? I don't remember. It's right over there. I should have grabbed it. But the first meeting, Golden Age and Silver Age Flash. We also got a facsimile edition of Wolverine number 1. The Chris Claremont John Buscema number 1 from like 87 or something, which I actually have a copy of. And I bought it a few years ago because I was going to meet Chris Claremont. And I forgot it, and I never got it signed, so now I have an opportunity to get it signed. Anyway, some cool facsimiles and True Believers and Dollar Comics and all that kind of stuff are out today as well. What are you reading? What are you getting excited for? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Please do like, share, and subscribe, and join us over at popculturephilosophers.com for podcasts and a whole lot more. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading.